Renowned primatologist and wildlife activist Jane Goodall has a message for climate change deniers. She says that climate change cycles are, quote, faster, they're dangerous, and they're human-made. I spoke with Goodall about our impact on the planet and what we can do to reverse it. Here's the first part of our conversation.
What is so strange, I spent all those years studying our closest relatives, the chimpanzees, and, they're so much more intelligent than people used to think. Plus, we've discovered that other animals are also incredibly intelligent, which when I began, I was told, animals didn't have the right kind of brain to be intelligent and to have emotions. We now know even little rats can be extraordinarily intelligent and do the intelligence tests of dogs. So isn't it bizarre that the most intellectual creature to ever walk the planet, the one thing that makes us more different than anything else from our closest relatives, the chimpanzees, how is it we're destroying, trashing the planet? We're clever enough to design a rocket that went to Mars, a little robot that crawled off, taking photographs. We've seen those photographs. We don't want to live on Mars. And how come that we're destroying our one little green and blue and beautiful planet? Because somehow or other, we've made a disconnect between the clever brain, which is now said plunging us into this materialistic world of immediate profit, and it's disconnected from love and compassion, the human heart.
Yeah, we have, as you put it, trashed the planet, and we've seen evidence of that in species loss, in habitat loss, also in climate change.
Well, yes, and climate change, we talk a lot about limiting the emissions of fossil fuel, which is very important, no question. But a shorter-term solution to buy time while our clever brain comes up with more technologies for clean green energy, for example. Saving and restoring our tropical forests, because they absorb CO2, they give out oxygen, and we're trashing them so fast. So that's one thing we can do for now, and also doing something about the horrible pollution of the ocean. That's the other great lung of the world that absorbs CO2 and gives out oxygen.
There are many world leaders out there, including U.S. President Donald Trump, who says climate change is not a problem. And recently he said, it'll change right back. What's your message?
It's also a Chinese hoax. Yeah. And I always say, if it's a Chinese hoax, clever Chinese, because it's so real. I've stood in Greenland, I've seen the ice melting in early spring that never used to melt even in summer. I can't remember, the ice cap on top of the world has fallen such a shocking amount. I can't remember how much. Sea levels rising, the hurricanes and the typhoons here in Hong Kong, they just had a horrible typhoon, and it was even the edge of it, not the eye of it. And they're getting more frequent and more dangerous, and flooding is getting worse, and droughts are getting worse. Look at the wildfires in California. I mean, awful, awful, because of so many years of drought. What do I make of the people who deny climate change or say it's part of a cycle? There has been a cycle, but this one is faster and more dangerous, and it's human-made.
What is the single biggest change that we can do in our lives as consumers to help protect our environment?
Well, I think it's, one thing is to think about the consequences of the choices you make, what you buy, what you eat, what you wear. That if everybody begins making ethical choices, is it cheap because of child slave labor? Is the meat cheap because of all these cruel conditions? That's one thing we all can do every single day.
Solid advice we can act on there from Jane Goodall. I also just had to ask her about this remarkable moment that was caught on camera when a chimpanzee named Wunda, chimpanzee that was rehabilitated from near death, gave her this hug before returning back into the wild.
It was one of the most moving things that's ever happened to me. And she was on the boat going to this island paradise. And she must have been, she was with people she knew, but still, where am I going? What's happening to me now? And so I was reassuring her through the bars of the cage. And it seems I have a calming effect on animals. And so coming out of the cage, And you see her looking around, and then she looks back at me. It's almost like a little jump. And this amazing embrace.
Oh, it gets me every single time I see that clip. The second part of my interview with Jane Goodall, you don't want to miss it. It airs tomorrow right here on Newsstream at the usual time, 9 p.m. in Hong Kong, 1 p.m. in London, only on CNN.